Now, on Friday, Donald Trump signed an executive order essentially banning Muslim refugees from Syria, as well as Muslim migrants and travelers from the countries of Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Now, some of which I have to note that we are bombing right now, that we have been bombing for the last, I don't know, decade, if not longer. Despite the fact that, of course, no actual terrorist attacks that have been successful on U.S. soil have originated from a majority of these countries. So keep that in mind as we go through this story. Now, the ban first, of course, included people who are dual citizens, and even those who have green cards, basically those who are legal to live and work in the United States. Now, that was eventually overturned over the weekend because there was so much pressure, so much political pressure, so much popular pressure as well, that they were like, oh, okay, we can bring back the green card thing, I guess. Now, the ban also suspended the Syrian refugee program. That is still in place. Unless, of course, you're a Christian, then, hey, come on in, guys. You're welcome. If you're a Christian, great. And coming from any one of these countries, awesome. If you're a Muslim coming from any of these countries, well, you better not come at all, or we're going to send you home, or we're going to hold you at the airport until we forcibly deport you. We're going to put you on a plane and send you back to wherever it is you're fleeing. Interesting. Now, ironically, Trump defends his travel ban first by saying, well, hey, I got to do it. We don't have a choice. I got to ban these people from these countries because I got to keep the country safe from these terrorists, from these refugees. Now, he also claims that it's not because of religion, but as I just pointed out, they're accepting Christians from Syria. They're accepting Christians from Iraq, Iran, wherever. So, but not the Muslims, which it does actually make it religious in nature. Just saying. Now, now he also said that Obama had done the same exact thing. That's not quite correct. And I'm gonna break it down. Let me break this down. Now, first of all, yes, as I said, it is a ban on Muslims. Not all Muslims, of course. And anybody who's saying, oh, it's a blanket ban on all Muslims, not quite. Now, you have people from Saudi Arabia, for example, majority Muslim country, United Arab Emirates, majority Muslim country again, and Egypt, majority Muslim country, not banned. But here's the reason that you can still say it's based on religion, is because, again, the Christian thing. You're going to say, well, we can have Christians here, but no Muslims. Okay. I keep beating that to death, but I think that's a super important point. Now, you also have the claim that the claim from Trump and the Republicans that this is to prevent terrorism. Now, remember, according to statistics, according to actual data and facts, not alternative facts, that you have countries that are mentioned in this travel ban, well, people from these countries have actually killed 0 Americans on U.S. soil. None. Nobody. Oh, okay. Now, interestingly enough, this is where it gets into the hypocritical part. The countries that are not on this list, that don't have travel bans, well, you have Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates, right? Now, these countries actually do have a history of their citizens killing Americans on U.S. soil. For example, you have citizens from Saudi Arabia. Now, in total, they killed 2,369 Americans between the years of 1975 and 2015. Now, all these numbers are from the right-leaning Cato Institute. So this is not liberal facts or fake news. This is coming from your own fucking think tanks. And even they're like, you can't really argue with the math, man. You've got, 2,360. You know what the majority of that is? 9/11. The most destructive terrorist attack in U.S. history. Saudi Arabia. Those are citizens from Saudi Arabia. Now, you also have Egyptian citizens that killed a total of 162 Americans between the years of 1975 and 2015, and the same time frame, according to Cato, you have 314 American citizens that were killed by citizens of the United Arab Emirates between that same time frame. So, but we're not banning those countries. No. You know why? Because along with Turkey, those 3 countries just happen to have business ties with Donald Trump. And Saudi Arabia specifically is considered a top U.S. ally. And this was even during the Obama administration, the Bush administration. They're a top ally. You know why they're a top ally? Cheap oil. Let's call it what it is. Cheap oil. Now, in this case, with Donald Trump, he also has business ties, as well as Saudi Arabia being a place for cheap oil. Now, let me give you some details into those business ties. Now, Trump, according to data, Trump registered 8 companies tied to hotel interests in Saudi Arabia shortly after launching his campaign in August of 2015. Now, this is according to the Washington Post, actually. The companies were registered under names as THC Jeddah Hotel and DT Jeddah Technical Services. Company names the Post reported bore striking resemblances to the one Trump has registered in other foreign countries. So I guess it makes sense that he follows a particular naming scheme when it comes to his business. Okay. Now, during a campaign rally in Alabama last year, to show just how Donald Trump thinks about Saudi Arabia, he said, quote, "Of the Saudis, oh, I like them. They buy apartments from me. They spend $40 million, $50 million. Am I supposed to dislike them? I mean, they give me all this money. Am I supposed to not like the Saudis? No, I love the Saudis. They give me lots of money. They rent my apartments. They buy my apartments. It's great. I love them. I love them. They're fantastic. I like them very much," he says. Well, okay. Let me give you a snapshot of the country that Donald Trump loves so much. According to a declassified U.S. intelligence report known as the 28 Pages, the Saudi government and its wealthy citizens actively funded Muslim radicalism through mosques and charities in the U.S. around the time of 9/11. And the 19 hijackers were in close contact with Saudi nationals before carrying out that terror attack, which of course is the worst one in U.S. history. But no, I love the Saudis, but we got to go after radical Islamic terrorism. That's what we got to go. First we got to name it radical Islamic terrorism, and then we've got to go after it. We got to go after the countries that are perpetuating it. Oops. Or not. Or we're just going to sign business deals with them and consider them our top ally in the region. That's what we're doing here. This is insane. Now, I also remember Donald Trump going out and talking about how Hillary Clinton took money from Saudi Arabia. Well, yes, what she did is that she gave weapons contracts through the State Department to Saudi Arabia. I remember covering that story and being incredibly critical about not only their rights, their record of human rights abuses, women's rights abuses, and the fact that they, yes, did bankroll and support radical Islamic terrorism. Gotta say it the way it is. Gotta call it by the name. You gotta call it out, right? It's radical Islamic terrorism. Saudi Arabia, one of the biggest purveyors of Wahhabism, which is radical Islam, is the most radical form of Islam that they have. But again, we're not talking about Saudi Arabia now that Donald Trump's in charge. In fact, we're not going to talk about banning them. Not that I'm advocating for a ban on anybody from Saudi Arabia. But to not ban them while banning others from countries that did not attack us, it's hypocritical to the core. Now, furthermore, you have Egypt, right? Now, in Trump's latest FEC filings, well, there are 2 companies that are listed in the country of Egypt. Now, it's called Trump Marks Egypt and Trump Marks Egypt LLC, both of which are most likely connected to a development venture. Now, you also have the United Arab Emirates. The Trump organization has a licensing and management deal in Dubai for 2 golf courses and a whole neighborhood of luxury villas that are currently under construction. Not only that, but Trump has frequently traveled to Dubai and to the United Arab Emirates, I should say, with Ivanka. They've been seen, photographed doing a golf course and shaking hands with the sheiks and, being all sorts of friendly, right? Now, the UAE ranks as the 6th richest country in the world. However, there is a widespread ISIS presence and Al-Qaeda presence. I thought we were going after ISIS. I thought ISIS was the worst thing in the world. We got to go after them. We got to bomb these countries. We got to knock ISIS the hell out, man. Well, ISIS is sitting right there next to your fucking hotels. You're not going to do anything about it. What a fraud. This guy's an absolute fraud. This isn't about the safety of the American people, man. What it's about banning Muslims that Trump doesn't like. He's trying to fulfill his campaign promises without actually imperiling his business deals. That's what it is. Anybody who hasn't given money to Donald Trump or allowed them to build a fancy hotel or a golf course, well, he's just going to give a giant middle finger to. And that's what's going on here. Hypocrisy. Now, finally, on the Obama administration part. No, the Obama administration, I mean, yes, it did ban people from Iraq, okay? Now, what happened is that he paused approval for refugee applications from Iraq for 6 months total after 2 Iraqi al-Qaeda terrorists were discovered living as refugees in Kentucky. So he stopped that and he said, well, we're going to have to look at that. Okay, so I'm sorry, we're going to have to temporarily stop you from coming into the country. Now, look, this refugee ban is, well, the refugee ban is suspended indefinitely until review. However, the other parts of the ban were, 90 days, I believe? That's a little less than Obama's ban, and not quite the same thing. Now, for me, I didn't agree with either ban, to be honest. Now, why? It's because maybe instead of banning people who are running from terrorism, maybe we should stop bombing these countries first. I mean, look, you bomb the hell of the country. You destroy rule of law and order. And then when everything goes to shit, you then try to ban people who are trying to escape from the country that you turned into a giant shithole. That's not good policy. That's terrible policy. So if we could stop bombing them first, that'd be great. And if you want to blame Obama for something, you can blame him for continuing the bombing of these countries. And I think that's a fair criticism. Now, thankfully, of course, this has caused a massive wave of protest and a decision by a judge that prevented the deportation of people from these countries that are still trapped in airports after this executive order was signed. Now, the ACLU actually sued in a lower court and won a stay on this issue. According to Lee Gellert, deputy director of the ACLU's Immigrants' Rights Project, says, quote, "This ruling preserves the status quo and ensures that people who have been granted permission to be in this country are not illegally removed off U.S. soil." Now, this comes from, of course, this decision, U.S. District Court Judge Ann Donnelly, who granted the stay after determining there would be substantial and irreparable damage and injury to refugees, visa holders, and other individuals from nations subject to the executive order. Our courts today, according to ACLU Executive Director Anthony Romero, our courts today work today as they should as bulwarks against government abuse or unconstitutional policies and orders. On week 1, Donald Trump suffered his first loss in court. And look, it was because he had an incredibly hypocritical order. And I just pointed out the reasons why it's incredibly hypocritical and why it's incredibly wrong. And look, I hope that this defeat in court is the first of many defeats in court, because these rulings, these orders cannot stand on their own. We've got to continue to fight them, and maybe eventually we are going to, not maybe, we are going to win. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation.